Stop. Whatever you are doing right now, stop. This is not for the distracted part of you. It is for the part that has been carrying a quiet weight for far too long. You have been feeling it in ways nobody around you can name. You have been pushing through days that should have felt ordinary, yet something in you keeps thinning, as if a hidden thread has been pulled and your strength is not being stolen, but drained by something you cannot see. And I came here to tell you that the reason is not random. By the time we close, you are going to recognize the signs that have been following you, the pattern beneath those signs, and the deeper root that has been shaping your reactions without your permission. You are going to understand why the pressure has felt so specific, why certain things no longer fit, and why the door has not opened in the way you expected. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you is not a theory. It is the thing that finally names what you have been living. This message reached you by appointment, not by accident. Not because you were searching in the right way, but because something in you had already arrived at the threshold before your mind caught up. You have been standing in a season where old explanations no longer hold, and this is the kind of word that only lands when the inner ground has already shifted. So listen carefully. There are specific things that have been happening to you, and they are not meaningless. They are not your imagination. They are not proof that you are failing. They are signals, and each one is telling the truth in the only language it can still use. You may have been waking at the same hour again and again, sometimes without a dream, sometimes with a dream so vivid it stays with you after sunrise. You may have noticed that the same hour feels charged, as if your body is opening its eyes before your mind is ready to name what is changing. That is not noise, that is a signal. You may have felt sudden waves of emotion that do not match the moment you are in. One minute you are steady, the next you are heavy, then strangely tender, then exhausted in a way sleep does not fix. Nothing visible changed, and yet something in you moved. That is not confusion. That is a signal. You may have sat in conversations that used to feel normal. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you, and strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment, and found them strangely hollow. The words still happen, the faces still smile, the topics still circle around ordinary things, and yet your spirit stands a little further back, watching. You are no longer nourished by what once held you together. That is not coldness. That is a signal. You may have noticed repeated numbers, repeated patterns, repeated little collisions that seem too precise to ignore. A clock, a receipt, a phone screen, a passing car. The same pattern returns until it is impossible not to feel that something is trying to get your attention without forcing itself on you. That is not superstition, that is a signal. And maybe you have also sensed a strange distance from old ways of coping. The work that used to distract you no longer covers the ache. The habits that used to keep you busy now feel thin. The noise that once dulled everything now feels unbearable. You are not breaking down. You are being made aware. Because the signs are not coming to accuse you. They are coming to confirm you. The waking hour is not there to punish you. It is there to invite you. The emotional wave is not there to overwhelm you. It is there to reveal that something inside you is no longer willing to remain numb. The hollow conversation is not there to shame your relationships. It is there to show that your spirit has outgrown empty contact. The repeated pattern is not there to frighten you. It is there to insist that this is a real moment of recognition. Let that settle. You have spent too long calling confirmation a problem. You have spent too long treating awareness like instability. But what if the very thing you have feared is the thing that proves you are not asleep? If even one of those signs just landed in you, if something in your chest tightened because you know exactly what I mean, type the number 888 in the comments. The frequency of overflow is not about more noise. It is about what is finally becoming visible. Type 888, then come right back to me. And there is something beneath these signs, something quieter, something more exact. The signs are only the surface. Beneath them is one pattern, one posture, one hidden way of moving through life that has been exhausting you for longer than you knew. You have been trying to keep reaching where reaching is no longer the answer. You have been pulling on what cannot respond anymore. You have been spending your strength on doors that only open from a different place. That is the pattern. It is the pattern of carrying responsibility, as if carrying it harder will make it lighter. It is the pattern of proving your sincerity to a life that never asked for proof. It is the pattern of confusing strain with devotion, noise with progress, and effort with alignment. You are not lazy. You are not behind. But you may have been faithful to the wrong posture for too long. That is why things feel expensive now. Not financially alone, though perhaps that too, but inwardly. Every decision costs more than it used to. Every unnecessary conversation drains you. Every place that does not fit you feels almost physically tight. You are living inside a posture that was useful once, but is now consuming the energy meant for your becoming. And this is why the old methods fail you now. Not because you are weak, because the pattern itself is old. It has a way of convincing you that if you just try one more time, one more hour, one more sacrifice, the result will finally change. But the result will not change while the posture remains untouched. The hard part is that this pattern can look noble from the outside. People often praise the one who keeps carrying. They admire the one who keeps showing up. They call it strength when someone keeps pouring from a cup that has already gone dry. But you know the truth in your own body. There is a difference between devotion and depletion. There is a difference between perseverance and being slowly emptied. You were never meant to build your life by draining yourself into every outcome. You were never meant to hold the whole structure upright with sheer strain. You were never meant to become the support beam for everything around you while your own center goes unguarded. So hear this clearly. The pattern is not your identity. It is a habit of survival that has outlived its season. It once kept you moving. It once helped you endure. But now it is costing you the very thing you came here to protect. And the cost is not only tiredness, it is distortion. It makes you doubt good openings because they arrive too quietly. It makes you mistrust ease because ease feels unfamiliar. It makes you keep choosing what is strenuous because strain feels like evidence that you are doing something real. This is how the pattern steals from you without ever announcing itself. But there is a layer beneath this one, and if you are willing to keep descending, I will show you the root that formed the pattern in the first place. I want you to picture a courtyard that belonged to you before you ever learned its name. A place enclosed not to imprison you, but to hold something precious at the center. The stones are old. The air is still. There is a door at the edge of it, and another door beyond that. And for a long time you have been standing in the outermost space, not because you were refused, but because no one taught you how to enter fully. This courtyard is not empty. It carries memory in the walls. It remembers footsteps. It remembers weather. It remembers the seasons when people learned to keep their voices low, not because truth was absent, but because survival required restraint. It remembers what was protected, what was hidden, and what was left waiting in the center until someone was finally ready to return. That is what you have been living from, not a lack, a protected center. Long ago, something in you learned to stand at the perimeter instead of the center. Long ago, you learned how to read the room before you read your own heart. Long ago, you learned to measure your safety by the temperature of other people's moods. Long ago, you learned that being careful could keep you from being hurt, and so your whole inner life became a courtyard with guards at the gate. The problem is that the guards kept serving long after the danger passed. They kept watching, kept tightening, kept holding the posture of alertness until alertness became the way you breathed. You stopped noticing that the very thing meant to preserve you was also keeping you from resting in the place that was always yours. That is why you feel split. Part of you still watches the perimeter. Part of you is already tired of watching. Part of you longs to sit in the middle of your own life without waiting for permission. That longing is not selfish. It is the memory of where you belong. And there is another grief inside the image, because a courtyard can be beautiful and still become lonely if nobody ever returns to the center. You can maintain the walls. You can keep the gates. You can even keep the place clean. But if the center remains unattended, the whole space begins to feel like a memory instead of a home. Something in you has been like that, kept orderly, kept functioning, kept present, and yet the real heart of you has been waiting for a voice that says, you do not have to stand guard forever. You may have been taught, directly or indirectly, that alertness is virtue and softness is risk. You may have been shaped by people who had to survive by staying hard at the edges. You may have inherited a posture that says, do not relax, do not trust ease, do not move toward the center until you are certain it will not cost you. But the cost has already been paid in another currency. It has been paid in numbness, in fatigue, in the slow dimming of joy. And the most painful part is that you have normalized that dimming. You have called it maturity. You have called it being realistic. You have called it strength. But the courtyard knows the difference between a guarded space and a living one. It knows when the silence is peace and when the silence is abandonment. If the image of that courtyard just settled somewhere deep in you, if you can feel that you have been standing at the edge of your own center for too long, type the words "I see it" in the comments. Let the recognition seal where it just landed. Type it, then come right back to me. Because now the courtyard is changing. The gate is still there, but it is no longer locked from the inside. The middle is no longer empty. The air is moving again, and what once felt like stillness begins to feel like waiting for your return. What follows is not a list of things to achieve. It is a return to the center, a return to the place in you that never stopped belonging to you, a return to the part of your life that does not need to be forced, only received. You do not need to earn your way back into wholeness. You do not need to prove that you deserve peace before you are allowed to touch it. You do not need to become someone else before your own life can recognize you. The work now is not construction. It is stewardship. Stewardship means you begin to tend what was always yours. You begin to notice where the gate has been held by fear instead of wisdom. You begin to notice which burdens belong to you and which ones were never yours to carry. You begin to notice that not every open door is for you, and not every closed door is a rejection. Some doors protect the courtyard until the center is ready. That is the first practice. I call it the quiet return. For a few moments each day, you stop asking what you can force and begin asking where the center of your life actually is. Not the center of other people's expectations, not the center of urgency, the center of your own soul. You sit there in stillness long enough to remember the difference between pressure and presence. The second practice is the threshold audit. You look at the places where you keep standing outside yourself, waiting for something to give you permission to enter. You ask which voices have been managing the gate for too long. You ask what kind of fear has been dressed up as responsibility. You ask what would change if you trusted that the center is not a reward, but a home. These are not tasks to impress anyone with. They are acts of return. Small, steady, unglamorous acts of remembering, because what is being restored in you cannot be rushed. It can only be received with enough reverence to let it reassemble itself. And as you receive it, you will notice something else. Your body begins to soften without losing strength. Your mind begins to quiet without losing clarity. Your choices begin to feel less like survival and more like alignment. That is how you will know the courtyard is alive again. Not because everything becomes easy, but because everything becomes truer. You may even feel resistance at first. That is normal. The guards at the gate do not leave because they are mocked. They leave because they are finally recognized, thanked, and released from a duty that no longer belongs to them. The posture that kept you alive must be honored before it can be set down, but it does not need to rule you anymore. What you are becoming is not reckless, it is not careless, it is not naive, it is returned, and returned things have a different weight. They do not perform, they dwell. They do not chase every sound. They know where they belong. They do not beg to be chosen because they have remembered they were held all along. If something in this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, let your like be your amen without words. Not as a metric, as an agreement that what was named here was named correctly. Sit with that for a moment. Let it settle into the place that has waited longest to hear it. There is someone in your life who came to mind while I was speaking. Someone quietly tired, someone secretly seeking, someone holding a posture nobody sees, someone who keeps going with a face that looks fine and a heart that has been asking for relief in silence. That person may be your brother, your sister, your friend, your spouse, your child, your father, your mother, or someone you have not spoken to in a while, but still carry in memory. What matters is not the label. What matters is that their face appeared, because this message is meant to travel farther than one hearing. Send it to them, not as a recommendation, as a delivery, the same way it was delivered to you tonight, by appointment. Before this closes, type the words, "I am the one," in the comments, not as a wish, not as a hope, as a confirmation. Let your fingers do what your spirit is already doing. Let the sentence become a seal over everything that has been named. You are confirmed. You are gathered. You are no longer living from the edge of your own courtyard. You are being brought back to the center. You are being released from the guards that never belonged to your final season. You are being restored to the place where your life can breathe again. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not lost to what has changed around you. You are known in the place that matters most. You are held in the place that does not tremble when your strength does. You are being met where the silence first began to speak. Right now, all across the world, others are hearing this same recognition and feeling the same inner click of truth. They may not know each other. They may never meet. But they are part of a hidden gathering of hearts that have been called back to what is real, and that is why this reaches so deeply. It is sealed. You are not leaving this moment the same way you entered it. Something in you has already recognized the voice of the threshold, and now the threshold is recognizing you back. You do not need to force the next step. You do not need to interrogate every feeling. You do not need to turn this into another battle with yourself. The truth is simpler, and it is gentler than the strain you have been living under. The return has already begun. There is a kind of quiet that only arrives when the body finally stops arguing with what the spirit has known for a long time. That quiet does not always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels almost invisible. Sometimes it feels like the first honest breath after holding your chest tight for months. Sometimes it feels like nothing happened at all, and yet everything inside you has been rearranged. That is what this is. A rearrangement. Not a performance, not a panic, not a last-minute rescue. A rearrangement of the parts of you that have been standing guard for too long. A rearrangement of the expectations that kept you outside your own center. A rearrangement of the place from which you have been making decisions, carrying burdens, and calling exhaustion normal. And because this is a rearrangement, it changes what you call strength. Strength is no longer the ability to stay tense forever. Strength is no longer the ability to keep carrying what is already draining you. Strength is no longer the refusal to rest, the refusal to soften, or the refusal to admit that something in the old way of living has run its course. Real strength is the courage to return. Real strength is the humility to admit that what once protected you may now be limiting you. Real strength is the willingness to stand in the middle of your own life and say, "This is mine again." Do not underestimate what happens when a person begins to say that. The words are small, but the shift is deep. Because every time you reclaim the center, you loosen the grip of everything that kept asking you to live at the edge. Every time you return, you teach your body that it does not need to brace for every sound. Every time you return, you teach your heart that it does not need to keep scanning the horizon for permission. You are not becoming less sensitive. You are becoming more truthful. You are not becoming less available to life. You are becoming available in the right way. You are not losing your discernment. You are finally letting it work without the noise of fear around it. There are moments when old patterns try to speak again. They may sound like urgency. They may sound like self-protection. They may sound like wisdom because they know how to wear wisdom's clothes. But you can hear the difference now. You can feel the difference now. What drains you does not own you. What once kept you moving does not get to name your future. And so you begin to move differently. You begin to choose with less panic. You begin to pause before saying yes. You begin to notice which conversations leave you clearer and which ones leave you scattered. You begin to feel how much life returns when you stop living, as if every open task is a test of your worth. This is how the center is restored. Not in one grand event, but in repeated acts of remembering. You remember when to stop. You remember what is yours. You remember where peace lives in you. You remember that your soul does not need to be forced into clarity. It needs to be given room to rise. There will still be days when the old pull appears. That does not mean you have failed. It means the deeper work is still settling into place. The difference is that now you can recognize the pull without obeying it. You can witness the old grip without becoming it. You can stand in the doorway of your own life and say, "Not again, not this way, not from here." That sentence matters more than it seems, because it marks the moment where survival begins to loosen its hold and wisdom begins to lead. It marks the moment where what was once automatic becomes conscious. It marks the moment where you stop confusing repetition with destiny. You are not here to repeat the same depletion in a more spiritual language. You are here to live with clarity, to live with reverence, to live with enough inner space that your gifts no longer have to fight for oxygen, to live without that constant undertow pulling you back into effort that no longer matches your season. And even now, as you hear this, something in you may be exhaling for the first time in a while. Let it. Let the breath come down deeper. Let the shoulders release. Let the jaw unclench. Let the part of you that has been bracing for disappointment hear a different instruction at last. You do not have to brace forever. You do not have to carry forever. You do not have to wait forever. The courtyard is not abandoned. The center is not empty. The gate is not your prison. It is your passage. And what once felt like distance is beginning to reveal itself as preparation for homecoming. So take this with you into the silence after the words. You are allowed to be guided by peace. You are allowed to be led by what gives life instead of what merely demands endurance. You are allowed to trust the shift that is already underway. You are allowed to belong again to the place in you that feels steady, open, and true. You are not being asked to become more than you are. You are being asked to come back to what was always intact beneath the strain. Come back to the center. Come back to the room inside you that still knows how to recognize light. Come back to the voice that does not need to shout in order to be real. Because something has changed. Even if the world around you has not caught up yet, something has been revealed. Something that was draining you has been exposed. Something false has lost its authority. And what remains is not a void, it is space. Space for discernment, space for rest, space for honest joy, space for the next right thing to arrive without being dragged into existence. Let that be enough for this moment. Let that be the quiet seal inside your chest. Let it stand there and remind you that the deepest turning is often the calmest one. You are restored in the place that matters. You are gathered in the place that matters. You are being held in the place that matters. Nothing external has to announce it before it is real. Walk gently now, hold loosely what was never meant to define you, keep what is true, release what drains, return to the center, return to the center, return to the center. You are home. Attention, you need to prepare now. I put together an exclusive resource for those who feel set apart for something greater, but live surrounded by noise, distractions, and mental overload. This is a 30-day journey that will transform your life. A guided path to armor your mind and prepare for what's coming with daily practices of focus, boundaries, and discipline. Stop negotiating with the noise. Learn to spot distractions before they control you. And strengthen your mind. Also available in an immersive audio version. Over 10 Zuru readers have already transformed their lives through the 30-day journey. Thousands of people have already started this transformation. People like you who are tired of living in the fog. Ordinary people who decided to stop accepting mental chaos. Take advantage of this limited time offer only this month. Access your link just below in the pinned comment.